Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to PBA at Noon. I'm Paul Benwell, and I'm joined by my colleague, Sophie Caesar. We are happy to welcome back PreveCeutical, a health sciences company that develops innovative organic and natural options for preventative and curative therapies, including therapies for diabetes and obesity. Most recently, one of those innovations has led its Sol-Gel COVID-19 program. Here to explain how PreveCeutical, which trades under the symbol PREV on the CSE, has endeavored on this ambitious project. With us today is CEO Stephen van Deventer. Welcome, Stephen, and start anytime you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and Sophie. Appreciate you having me on today. Anyway, thank you for everyone who is joining us today to hear a little bit about what's going on. As you know, with the PreveCeutical, we have 4 programs on the go, but today we're here to discuss the Sol-Gel program and a little bit more specifically into the Sol-Gel program, talking about what we plan to do on the COVID-19. So I will start off with a few little, a bit of background on the Sol-Gel and then how we get to the COVID-19. So ultimately in 2017, we saw a need in the cannabis industry to move from smoking cannabis because physicians and doctors just can't condone smoking it. So I understood at that time we would need to find a delivery system that we can deliver the cannabinoids to the patient, but not only just deliver it on a short-term basis, on a sustained basis, because certain ailments like seizures require, you don't want to have the seizure and then take the oil. If you can actually microdose it, or in our case, nanodose it through the nasal cavity over a 7-day period, it could then help reduce or potentially eliminate the seizures. So in order to do this, our program is a multifaceted program, and the matter that if you look at most drug manufacturers right now, they usually just develop the drug. What we're doing is we're doing multiple things. We're doing 3-prong tier on this, and I'll give you a little idea with respect to the 3-prong tier. So right here. Okay, can you see that, Paul? Just make sure that you guys can see my shared screen.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes, it's great.
Okay, perfect. So the 3-prong tier that I'm going to show you here is, first of all, you need a carrier system to be able to carry the actual drug. So that is where the actual Sol-Gel comes into place. So all the molecules that are within the Sol-Gel are all currently FDA approved molecules. So we have created the Sol-Gel, we put these multiple molecules together to create this gel that's in a liquid format. And then when you inhale it into your nasal cavity, because of your body temperature change, it immediately gels into a gel state. So if you see on the left side of the green part of the screen, it says the carrier. That's where we have the Sol-Gels in the solution, and we've infused it with nanoparticles, and those nanoparticles can then be, any form of drug can be infused into that nanoparticle. Then what we do is the secondary part is we create a drug. So in this case, with the Sol-Gel, we started off with the cannabinoid program, where we've taken 5 different strains of cannabis and we fingerprinted all the different cannabinoids in them. There's a lot of discrepancy on how many cannabinoids are in the plant because there's lots of micro cannabinoids. So there's roughly been about 141 to 144 shown so far. Some people say up to about 200. So we've taken all these different fingerprints, so we now can take each specific cannabinoid from the plant and put them together if it's a matter of it's going to be CBD, THC, THCA, CBG, whichever the combination is for different ailments, we can then infuse that. Now, on top of that, then once the drug companies have created this, you need to have the appropriate device, because we've looked at a lot of different nasal sprays, and how do we actually get the gel to get to the right part of the brain, of the blood-brain barrier on the mucosa? It's very important that we have the correct device. So what we have done is we've paired these 3 together. We've got the carrier system, which is our gel. We've got the different cannabinoids, which is the drug for the solution. and then the actual device that will spray into the nasal cavity for the right amount of dosage and to be able to hit the right spot. So I'll move that up here. Okay, so taking you a little bit further on into where we go with the sol gel here. Change screens. Okay, there we go. Should be coming up. So within the sol gel, as you can see, we have we got a special sol gel applicator. So we created a human cast to be able to, there was a see-through, see when we spray the gel. And in this case, we actually added a fluorescent dye to it so we can actually see where it lands in the nasal cavity. So trying the multiple different applicators, as you can see the applicator in the nose over here, this applicator spray puts most of the sol gel in this area. Our target area is from here over the top. So this is the mucosa and the olfactory under the brain-blood barrier. And this is where most of the receptors are, including the ACE2 receptor for that basically all viruses, coronaviruses and that form have to enter the body via this receptor. So we make sure that the human cast is now down to 34 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature of the body, because as you know, our liquid format is, once it's sprayed, changes on temperature change on contact. So we tried this nasal spray, this nasal device, we tried another nasal device. You see, none of these actually worked appropriately. So not only do we want to ensure that we have the drug and the delivery, but we now need to have the appropriate applicator. So trying a few different applicators, you can see that this applicator sprayed it direct in here, didn't get where we wanted to be within the mucosa. And now the format just showed there was too much in this area. So it's got to be ideally put right into here. With a bit of more testing of all the different applications, as you can see, this is our target area, and this applicator we tried got most of the effective amount into the area here where we require. So this is the inhalation the applicator that we'll be using in this process. Now I will go to give you a little demonstration on how the applicator actually deploys. In 1 second, I'll pull this up for you. Bear with me, I'm not the best when it comes to technology part of it here, but we'll get there. Ah, there it is. So ultimately, let me find this one here. And we will share the screen. Okay. There we go. You should be seeing the screen. So Dr. Harry Perek is our Chief Research Officer for PreveCeutical Medical Inc. And as we move forward, the whole idea was to be able to get to the brain-blood barrier and through the nasal cavity, because this is the area where we need the drug to be for the most bioavailability, and also to be able to sit there in the nasal cavity. Let me move this away here, because that's my way. Probably everybody's. And once again, this is the olfactory nerve area right here and the olfactory bulb. This is ultimately where all, if you see these little marks in here, these are all the different receptors in the nasal cavity where different viruses or other bacteria stuff can accumulate and create some respiratory issues or other viral intake into your body system. So ultimately, now that we have that done, there's a few phases we have to go through. So what we have announced, as you know, in the past, is that we basically have created, we know which of the formulas are required to be able to extract onto the ACE2 receptor in the nasal cavity. So we've created the Sol Gel program. We have it ready to now infuse any form of the different cannabinoids, or any other forms of drug could be infused into this. Now we've selected as our first program is the COVID-19. So 3 weeks ago, I believe, we started the formulation process. So our scientists who are looking at all the different cannabinoids, extracting them from the specific strain that we have identified that should potentially be able to block the AC2 receptor from any inhibitor of viruses to be able to penetrate that. We expect that to be between 60 to 90 days till that formula is ready. During the same period, in order to get a fast track onto being able to do clinical trials, we retained Veristat, as you know, and they're a clinical research company that basically does, maintains your clinical trials, puts them together for you, and they're pretty much a global. They're out of Boston, Massachusetts, but they have offices in Montreal and Toronto and all over the world. And so we have now asked them to basically put our road path together for us on how we're going to get from having the formula to the clinical trials to government approval. So over the next 60 days, we're going back and forth with them, designing this roadmap. So once we have the formula ready, we then should be able to go straight into clinical trials without having to plan the roadmap to get there. We're looking at accelerating this under the Canadian Accelerated Program for the coronavirus, as Health Canada has put together for acceleration purposes. And also we're seeking to look under the FDA, under their Operation Warp Speed, to be able to get this through the clinical trials to market as well. So Veristat will be signing this for us and putting it together, and we should have this process ready in about 60 days. Now, once we have this together, then we will be able to tell the community which hospitals, how many patients in the different trials, and what are the different targets. What should make this process a little easier for us is that, as I said before, all the Sol Gel components are FDA-approved molecules, so those molecules, they do not have to really concern themselves with the FDA. They won't be too stringent on them. The nasal applicator is an FDA-approved nasal application system that is approved by them as well. So the only thing we really have to do now is prove the efficacy and safety and the ability of the actual specific cannabinoids that we have chosen. We've done some safety and efficacy already. We got some fresh human mucosa from the University of Queensland's hospital that's set next to the side of it. The Human Ethics Commissioner gave us approval to test them. And as you know from past press releases, the results came back that there was no toxicity, there was no inflammation and no irritation on the mucosa at all. So that's great positivity for it. So moving forward with that now, we will then take this, create the formula and start these trials, and hopefully be able to accelerate them in a very fast manner. Paul, do you guys have any questions at the moment?
Yes, actually we do. Thank you so much. We've had a couple of questions come through, and I know you touched a little bit on it just now, but for example, when's your target date for the testing to be completed? And once that's completed, what's the plan and timeline to bring the product to market?
Okay, so that's the billion-dollar question in many matters. That this is exactly what Veristat is planning for us, our timing. So over the next 30 to 60 days, we'll have much better guidelines and timing on that, because they'll be working with Health Canada and the FDA on this accelerated process. And so because this is a new program that they created just for coronavirus to accelerate, it's very important for us to understand that timing. So ultimately what we believe Because this coronavirus is a priority to get done, we suspect that within, let's say 60 days from now, we should have that formula and be ready to start the clinical trials. So we suspect that we should be able to start clinical trials in October sometime. Now, as for the timing of those clinical trials, usually these things can take years, but as I've explained before, most of the components are pre-approved. So under the Operation Warp Speed and the Canadian Coronavirus Acceleration Program, they have, we believe that we could probably get that done in 3 to 6 months, but probably in 3 because of this not being a chemical drug, this is more being an organic substance infused. But these exact timelines will not be able to be determined until we actually be able to formulate that roadmap and make sure. So we'll have a better understanding of that over the next 60 days.
So you talk about everything that's in it being FDA approved. Is it also approved, let's say, with Health Canada and with the equivalent agency in Australia?
Correct. So Australia is the TJ, which is the Therapeutic Goods Association. And so, yes, all these are common molecules that are being used in many for different formulas for, other type of things. But we've just taken a combination of them to put it together to create this program.
And would you be eligible for grants as well from Canada, Australia?
Yes. So we're eligible under the Canadians SIF, which is a Strategic Innovation Fund. And we were told that we should have answers within 60 days, and that 60 days is gone by. So in talking to them directly over the last couple of weeks, they say to expect something in the near future. In the next few weeks, they said they wouldn't give us exactly when. So the feeling I have is we should have an answer from them this month is my feeling. It could spill over next month, but we should. Secondly, being this far down the line that this is the second stage we've gone through. So we already went through the first stage. We got pre-approved in the first stage, but that doesn't mean it means that they're willing to spend some money to dig deeper. Then from there, they retained outside resources to verify what we have put together. And so the government of Canada is paying for that research to be checked that there's any viability in our program. Taking this long is a positive sign in my mind, because if they didn't like it, we would be thrown out already. Why waste the time and the money? So, and taking a little longer means that they might be digging deeper, in my opinion. So we are eligible here. We're eligible in Australia. We're also eligible in the United States to do this. The only condition is whichever country funds the program, we actually have to spend the majority of the money there. And so we're in the process of talking to the Australian government as well. We've got our team on the ground there that is very well connected in government. Actually, one of our consultants there is a lobbyist in the Australian government, and also was a minister on the federal government as well, so very well connected. If we get one or the other or both, we could do simultaneous trials in both different areas. So yes, we are eligible, but it's a matter of which one would be able to provide funding.
Okay, excellent. And speaking of funding, so we do have a couple of financial questions. Do you have enough funds to advance your research currently?
And remember, this is R&D. I don't think any R&D company has enough money right at the gate to be able to fund that. And we could probably go and get some larger money from other people, but at these levels, the dilution wouldn't be fair to shareholders. So we're doing it strategically to do as less dilution as possible, and hence why looking at getting grants and stuff like that in that manner. Now, so we do have enough funds for operating funds to continue doing what we're doing in the meantime. When it comes to the clinic, so we've also already prepaid for the whole program in the University of Queensland to create the COVID-19 formulation. So everything is prepaid on that stuff. It would become to when it comes down to clinical trials. Then we have some money to get that going, but not to complete that. But most companies don't. That's something that as we get more results, we announce that the valuation goes higher, then we can look at either getting some other funding done, maybe debt funding, partnership with another pharma company that'd be willing to write the check for it for a percentage ownership in it, or some equity funding as well, or the grants. So there's multiple different resources that we'll be seeking as we move along.
So, sorry, and that was one of the questions, and I know you just touched on it. But so is that part in the pipeline, is looking at maybe connecting with a big pharma to help move these clinical trials, sooner, quicker, and develop it more rapidly?
That is correct, because we don't want to be a drug manufacturer. So, our idea was to build the different intellectual property and treatments that we have, and then partner with somebody that would then produce it and use their retail chain. So we don't want to be out there trying to sell the product and stuff. We want to develop it and then hypothetically partner with a Pfizer or a Veristat, where then they would deliver it as a Pfizer sold out product under a licensing agreement with us at a royalty fee, but we own the intellectual property, and they'd pay us a licensing fee, an annual licensing fee, and a royalty plan. So that would be the plan. No point in going to reinvent the wheel trying to manufacture this all yourself, and they had the distribution networks.
So, and then in terms of talking revenue, I know it's very, very difficult to discuss at that point, and you broke it down, you're probably looking at maybe a little bit of a royalty, but do you have any visibility on what revenues, could be in the next 6, 12, 18 months? And maybe if not just off the soft gel, in terms of some of the other products as well?
Over the next 6 months, I would say it's very unlikely we'd have any revenue over the next 6 months. But after that, there's the likelihood of it being quite very strong to have revenues from it. But ultimately, we don't see too much of an issue with that.
Okay. What is your current long-term and short-term debt?
The current and long-term, short-term debt is probably around about $3 million or 3.5, somewhere around there. And all that short and long-term debt is actually held by myself and my wife into the company. So we don't have any hostile institutions or any convertible spiral debt in the place. We're looking out for the best interests of the company. That's why we invested this money. And it was also done at a very, very low interest rate. I think it was done at like 4% interest rate rather than something ridiculous that these companies and other people charge at 15. Of course, we want to see a success to the company. So the debt is by my wife and myself, and we continue to add funds to the company as required.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're asking questions that haven't already been asked.
No problem.
I know that we are focusing on the Sol Gel for the COVID, but there is another question here from Michael from Ontario that asks, your advanced research in a number of areas suggests some huge possibilities in the future. If you could pick just one, which is your favorite baby?
Oh God, you see, it keeps changing. It's funny, it changes. In the beginning and all the way through, I've always really liked I've seen some impressive stuff for the scorpion venom, but being a cancer treatment and chemotherapy being a very lucrative business for big pharma, I can see some hurdles going forward. But it's very, very effective. The second one was the Sol Gel. I chose it because I knew that there'd be a lot of doctors looking for alternative delivery systems. So I've always really liked that a lot and seen a lot of potential in that. But the diabetes and obesity one was always my favorite because, there's I think it's like the globe loses about $1.3 trillion a year from diabetes and obesity, from lack of work, insurance policies, people having to surgeries. It's very, very costly to the globe. So this is something they would like to find a solution for, and that could be potentially worth hundreds of billions. But it's a big program. So I've always liked that, and I think because once you get that the diabetes program done, we're not only just targeting. This is a dual gene therapy. It means we're attacking two parts. We're going for the diabetes and obesity because we've recognized what gene in your body is responsible for diabetes. Now, that's not too much thought. Now we've recognized how to silence that gene to bring your levels down so you're not diabetic. And then, of course, if you're not diabetic, at the same time, reduce the weight that assists with it as well. But what's key about gene therapy, once this one's proven out, the possibilities of end this, because currently right now, there is The only way to deliver gene therapy to the body is it's called a viral delivery. So they use a virus. So if I wanted to deliver a treatment, a gene therapy, say to the lungs, we would use a virus that infects the lungs. So you would then take that virus, put the cargo in that you want to treat, and send it into the body. There's a few problems with it. Number one is that now that you've got the gene therapy in there to treat yourself, you now have to fight off the virus as well. So if it's a cold virus or a flu virus or what other form of virus you're using, you'll be doing it. So you have that one problem. The second problem, it is very, very expensive. I don't know if you guys saw recently some child that was looking for, that needs some gene therapy, which is going to cost about $3 million. This is here in Canada. I saw it on the news last week here, and they just can't afford it because it's gene therapy. Well, the drug manufacturer has agreed to pay for that gene therapy. I mean, $3 million, that's basically for 2 or 3 injections.
Crazy, yeah.
So you're looking between $250,000 to $1 million per injection with this viral treatment. And also with the viral treatment, your cargo is limited to the size you can put in there. So we're not only creating in the dual gene therapy, the treatment for it, we're also creating our own non-viral delivery system. And we already developed this already. So basically, it looks like one of those balls, like a hexagon ball, and we are able to infuse 10 times more cargo than a virus. And the whole cargo, the whole delivery system that we created to acts just like a virus, and we can train it to go to the whichever part of the body we need to deliver the cargo to. And what's critical about this is once it gets to the area it needs to deliver the cargo, it breaks apart. And when it breaks apart, all the components are all amino acids. And those amino acids now act as nutrients as well, rather than fighting off things. But the key reason for doing that was to reduce the cost. So our injections could be just mere thousands of dollars per injection rather than hundreds of thousands. But once we approved both these factors together, we can prove we can do the diabetes and we have the non-viral delivery system. Anybody else out there with gene therapy could come to us and say, could we license your delivery system? Because now they could reduce their costs and not having to use viruses. So any other gene therapies out there could effectively infuse their product into our delivery system. So that's another secondary part. So I really like that's massive. Yeah. The other one was the painkiller. And I've always liked that, but over the last few years, it's become more and more clear that this opioid problem is getting way out of control. I mean, if we look at the amount of COVID-19 deaths per day, and then the amount of deaths per day, for addiction and overdoses, is much more than that. So this is a viral problem that is getting large. It's already a pandemic in my opinion, but it's getting worse. And I just believe in the last few days, the 50 United States of America have now filed a lawsuit against Pudar for $2.2 trillion. That doesn't include the rest of the world that'll be coming. Canada will be suing next. All the different European Union countries will be filing as well. And that's just against drug manufacturers. All the other ones that are filing have that potential lawsuits coming against them. So they're going to definitely need an alternative. And in this case, I don't see Pharma wanting to fight with us. I think they see more to welcome us, because I don't know any company that can take a $2.2 trillion hit without going bankrupt, because Apple's just over $1 trillion. That would wipe them out.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's excellent. Paul's joined us. Paul, would you like to ask Stephen some questions?
Just a couple of questions just to clarify. Maybe you said it and I missed it or whatever, but are all of your procedures patented? Can you hear me, Stephen?
Sorry, I hear you now.
Okay. Are all your procedures patented?
Absolutely. Well, they're not patented yet, but everything is being patented. So the Sol Gel formulation for the Sol Gel is patented. The way we fingerprint it and also make the cannabis water soluble, which is very important to us. Having a water soluble product means that there's no alcohol in it, so neonatal and seniors can use it, and certain religions as well, and ethnics cannot have alcohol. So we've got all these have been patched. So the lawyers have been working on the full sol gel patenting of all the different pieces. There's been a few pieces filed already, but the major connectors all in the process. And our lawyers just completed that last week. So it's sitting with our scientists in the university to review, to make sure everything's correct before we file it. We expect to be filing that imminently, and probably potentially this week. Next week is very likely.
Okay.
And then on the other program, same thing too. As we get them through, like on the painkiller, I just received an interim final report this morning, which we've been waiting for. That program has been successfully completed. Initially, just a quick breeze over the data. The data is, it's blowing myself away now. Scientists, they didn't expect the data to be as strong. So we always expected it to be at a certain level. It's even better than we expected. So we'll be making some announcements on that data without giving out any secrets yet, while our lawyers start, drafting the patents on those as well.
Okay. And one last question before we wrap it up here. Have you looked into the European market at any point in time?
Yes, we've had a lot of discussions with the European market. Germany, we looking, there's a lot of there, Spain, Portugal, the UK, Italy, all over basically. And so through our contacts, we've got a large interest in the sol gel in those areas because they like the non-smoking factor. They're very interested in the painkillers. Everybody's asking us to please get that to market as soon as we can. There's a possibility for fast track of the painkiller because they see the need of the opioid crisis. So there's huge interest in Europe. Actually, it's all over. I mean, even India has a large, just outside of Hyderabad, is probably one of the largest manufacturers of drugs in the world. They have built these massive business parks for pharmaceutical companies, and you got everybody. You got Pfizer, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, you go on. So they want to do manufacturing out of there as well. So there's a lot of interest out of that.
All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for today. Much appreciated. You've got a lot going, and hopefully something is going to click in soon once you get your trials going. So thank you to everyone for logging in today. Much appreciated as always. And everybody, please be safe, be careful, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Stephen.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I appreciate you having me, Paul and Sophie. And thank you, everybody, for attending today.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.